and I'm going to record it here. So just take a moment to find a comfortable seat, and in a moment we're going to be doing a practice called Nadi Shodhana, which is just an alternate nostril breathing. And you don't have to do it just now, but I want to show you. So you'll take your right hand and you'll fold in your index and your middle finger, and so the thumb and the ring finger are up. And that's just going to be, you're going to use this on either side of your nose to just kind of block off, just, you know, right where the cartilage kind of meets your face there. You block off the crease of one nostril and then the other so that you can breathe solely in through one nostril and then out through another. And I'll walk you through it, but I just wanted to show you the hand gesture so that you have the way of blocking off the nostrils. So just take a moment to sit up nice and tall. And you can be sitting on the floor like I am, or up in a chair, or on the edge of the couch, wherever it is that you feel like you can be upright, but really at ease without so much effort, but alert and open, surrendered, soft. And you can allow your eyes to softly close, or if that doesn't work for you, you can simply gaze down your cheeks. Either is fine. And just allow yourself a moment of settling, as if you were just really burrowing into, settling into, nestling into the heart of the moment. Here, just here. Simply sense into the natural flow of your breath. You don't have to do anything with it, just really experience the inhales and the exhales, and even the spaces where the breath turns around. And then simply notice, do you have a preference to one side of your breath or the other? So is your inhale longer and stronger than the exhale, or vice versa? Just notice that. Now simply allow your breath to become more balanced, so that there's a more equal reciprocity between the giving and the receiving, the inhale and the exhale. If your attention starts to dive into the river of thoughts, no problem. You can just invite your attention back to the tending of the breath, even and smooth. Just here, this breath. Now experience the sensation of this even, smooth breath as it flows in and out through the nostrils. And let it become even a more nasally kind of breath. So that you feel the heft of the breath more in the nostrils and less maybe in the throat. And you can even notice if there's a preference right now to the breath in the nostrils. Oftentimes there is. Just notice if maybe the breath is more dominant in the left nostril or the nostril right now, or maybe they're a little bit more balanced. That dominance changes throughout the day. So it's perfectly normal. It's not perfectly balanced. Now continue to experience the breath through the nostrils. Allow the breath to remain even and smooth. And fold your index and your middle finger on your right hand into your palm. And just lay your thumb and your ring finger up alongside either side of your nose. Feel the breath in the nostrils. You might even feel the nostrils flare into your fingers that are just resting along the side of your nose right now, not pressing, just resting. And then simply lightly block the right nostril, and as you inhale, breathe only in through the left nostril. The top of the inhale, pause for a moment, block both nostrils, then open the right nostril and breathe out through the right nostril. Keep the right nostril open, breathe in through the right side. Pause at the top, close both of your nostrils off, open the left, and breathe out through the left. Keep the left nostril open and breathe in through the left nostril. Pause at the top, close both. Open the right and breathe out. Breathe in through the right. Pause and close both. Open the left and breathe out through the left. So that's the rhythm. Please keep going to your own breath's rhythm. Just alternating the flow of breath between the nostrils. Allowing the length of the inhales and the exhales and the pause between the two to be a place that's easy for you, relaxing for you. Please finish the cycle you're on and then do one more full round. And you'll finish by breathing out through the left. Whenever you're finished, simply lower your hands to your lap. Take your time. Just notice the quality of your presence and your attention. Simply allow yourself a few moments to just be before you even have thought about it. Just allow yourself to simply exist and experience pure being before you even have a thought about it. Simply experience what it is to be you without referring to an idea or a thought. Just be. And from this place of pure being, simply notice the quality of your presence. And from a space of being, simply allow your eyes to softly open. Becoming receptive to the room and to one another. So really simple practices. What is the quality of your being right now? If you could give it a word, you can either just type it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. Just let me know how you're feeling right now. What's the quality of your being? Calm. Okay. That's it. Just calm. All right. At ease. Restful, accepting. There we go. Calm as well. Blissful, peaceful, and a little anxious. Sure. Sure. Yeah. So it doesn't take a lot to what do I want to say, shift from continually becoming into a place of just being for a moment. And the two are radically important. I mean, we've been talking a lot about action and how important that is. And you know, in all of the great spiritual traditions, we talk about this balance between action and just being, between becoming and being. And last week we ended up our call, and Sophia was kind of weaving this really beautiful vision of a world that we could potentially live in, one that is that is more loving towards all humans and towards the planet and all of this. And that's going to take a lot of action on all of our parts to live into that world, for sure. And it's also going to take a lot of self-care and a lot of self-love, because I think about it in this way: we can't give what we don't have. We just can't, and we can't have what we won't receive. And so in this way, self-care becomes a revolutionary act, because if we don't take care here, first of all, we're going to burn out. And second of all, our efforts will likely end up being tethered to something that is more rooted in lack than abundance. You know what I mean by that? And that world of possibility actually doesn't really come to the fore, because we also are operating from a depleting place of lack, which then ends in trying to either withdraw or dominate something, right? We've talked about this before. But what I want to do here is open it up to you guys a little bit to talk about self-care, and then we'll do a few more practices, because I wanted you guys to have some really simple, easy tools that you can use yourself to remain whole while you go, because ultimately we are here in this world, in this life, to give ourselves away, just like everything in nature does, but not to deplete ourselves, not from that place of lack, but from that place of abundance, where it is that we're here. Otherwise, our self-care process becomes a narcissistic act, right? And our yoga practice becomes a narcissistic act, and that is something that we need to tend to, of yes, I'm taking my care of myself. So there's this really amazing interview I watched with Maya Angelou several years before she passed away, and in this little interview, she talked about preparing yourself to be a blessing to somebody. And so it's always just it just struck a chord in my heart. You prepare yourself to be a blessing to somebody. So this self-care act is us preparing ourselves, but it doesn't stop here. It's so that we can move out into the world in a way that is more integrated, more loving, and more clear. So what I want to do really quickly here is just open it up to you guys. So is self-care important to you guys? You just give a shake, yes or no, or you I don't do it, or yeah, you do. I'm getting some thumbs up. Yeah. How does self-care affect the way that you show up in the world? Then I'll just leave that, you guys you can just raise your hand, and then we can unmute you as you're ready. How does self-care affect how you show up in the world? And that your world could be for your family, your community. It doesn't have to be the whole world. Tell me. Sarah.
It keeps me from feeling drained. I feel less drained if I'm taking care of myself, than less reactionary to others if I feel like they're taking too much from me.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I've found for myself too, you're not in such a place of overwhelm, but what also then happens when I'm less drained, and something, for example, that would happen in my house, which is I've done the breakfast dishes, and then I go and do something, and I come back and the sink is full of dishes again. That's just what happens. If I'm not really rooted in my self-care practice, that becomes a burden. And when I am rooted in my self-care practice, that becomes an honor. I have a house that, I have, my daughter who's constantly making a mess. Great. I love her. It's such an honor to be able to to engage in that way. And I can be of service in this way. And I'm not saying that I'm always then, like, I'm not gonna, she doesn't understand what it is to do chores and to pitch in and that kind of thing. But the way I approach that whole conversation becomes different. Do you see? And so that's that whole thing that I really love that you bring that in, Sarah, is that we're just not so drained. And when we're not so drained, we can meet sort of our complaints in life in a different, much more effective and powerful way. When I find myself at deep complaint with, like, the little nitpicky things in my life, my first question, it didn't used to be, but my first question now becomes, how can I better take care of my heart right now? And then it's from that place that I can engage the situation in a different kind of way. And let's be clear, it's not a way of passivity. It's actually a way of deep, deep, deep power. And therein lies the root of big change, that can happen even just with the conversation that I might be having with myself about my engagement with my family, and then next my conversation with my daughter, which then, keeps going out. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah. Sarah, thank you so much for bringing that up. That's great. What else? How else for you guys? How does self-care affect how you show up in the world? Yeah, Christine. Let's see her. Hold on. There we go.
Hi. So I can say for me, if I'm coming to my day in a place of I'm already in turmoil, if something comes along, I will be less likely to know whether I can handle it or not. So if I come to my day with a little bit more peace and from self-care, I have a better sense of my boundary of what I actually can handle or not. Because if something starts to not feel right, it really speaks to me, and then I know, and then I can navigate through that if I'm already feeling in constant turmoil. It's kind of speaking to what you were saying, but to me, it's like, it sets my boundary in a way that I know I can go back to that. If I'm not there, I don't know where to go back to. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. It gives you kind of like a little set point, where you're coming from. And then from there, you can kind of gauge, what today am I capable of saying yes to? And what do I need to say no to in order to stand in integrity with myself? And this is a dynamic. I love the way that you're talking about this, of like, oh, some days I'm in turmoil, some days I'm not. This is a, finding balance, and that kind of thing is a dynamic process. You're never in balance, like you're just always like in this process of balancing. This is like homeodynamic state that we're always working towards. So if we can take the moment of self-care, we have this moment of self-reflection of like, oh, this is where I'm at right now. This is how I take care of myself so that I can take care of the others in my life, or whatever it might be. This is what I need to say yes to. This is what I need to say no to. Love that. Yeah. And that state is always, we're fluctuating, we're constantly changing. And so I feel like self-care allows us this navigation tool to even be able to say, like, to own the boundary as my own, of like, just bringing it back to my daughter, like, if I'm having a moment of turmoil and she comes in and we start to turmoil together, I can say, you know what, honey, I love you. I hear that we're having a struggle right now. I just need 5 minutes, and then we can have a conversation. Or can we lay down, ear to ear and have a little chat where I hear, you know what I mean? And the way that I can engage her, I can speak to what's happening, and I can speak to my needs, which also helps her to be able to speak to hers.
Yeah, and I love how you're talking about your daughter, because I'm a preschool teacher. So that is a part of my everyday practice. I have to know, because I work with another teacher, and I have to know where I am that day, so that I know I need to ask for help when I'm not emotionally available to soothe a screaming child. So yeah, same thing.
Yeah. And so the thing about this that I want to say is, like, we do the self-care practices, and it is about ourselves. And then the fact that you're bringing in that you're a, you work with young ones, you are showing them what it is to be emotionally intelligent. I'm naming this right now. I'm able to name this and also say, this is what I need. I need support. You're modeling I need to ask for help so that our children know how to ask for help. I mean, so this self-care process and this checking in doesn't end at you, you know, and it's like, oh, right, you and your fellow teacher know how to work together. The kids see that. They see what a healthy, supportive relationship looks like. You know, that's really big. So, I mean, lest we start to think about self-care as it just stops here. You know, self-care is about being able to model in these quiet ways how it is that we can be more human with one another. But it also then allows us to be much, much, much more generous in just the way that we give of ourselves, for sure, but also more generous in our assumptions of others, because we understand something more about what it is to be human. So thanks for that, Christine. Anybody else? Yeah, Trey's got a hand up here. All right, let's mute you and unmute. You're unmuted. Great. No, you're not. Sorry. We both do it at the same time. Okay, you do it. Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, cool. Yeah, definitely when I'm not practicing or just not self-caring about myself, like Sarah said, everything, she's less reactionary when she does practice, and in my interactions, when I do talk, I'm way more responsive when I get to practice. And I think it's because I realize I'm in my head all day, every day, I feel like. And like, just when I don't practice, I feel like it's more opinion than insight, rather, in my head all day. So yeah, that.
I love what you just said there about being in our heads all day, and like the difference between opinion and insight. That really landed. And when we're in our self-care practice, we can kind of, we're discerning about the two a little bit more, and we can, you know, pause and listen more versus, you know, all that. So I feel like that's a really important distinction, and being able to be responsive and receptive. I feel like there's this thing where like we could be reactive or we could be responsive, but when we're in our self-care, we can first be receptive. Like there's some precursor work to being responsive, is being completely receptive to what, you know, is coming in. And like you said, when I get out of my head here, you know, and I'm now in conversation and whatever, I'm much more receptive to something that's other than just like floating around up here. And then we can become more responsive, which to me feels a lot like, oh, right, this is what it is to be in relationship, versus me just like, oh my gosh, this little terrorist's been running around in my head all day and I just need to let him out through my opinion. I just have to say that thing, you know, and that the word responsive, like for me, personal responsibility is such a huge component of my life. And, you know, our ability, so responsibility coming from our ability to be responsive, and just in the way that, you know, that you were articulating, Trey, and that we're kind of expanding on here of like, oh, right, receptive to what's going on, noticing what's going on in the head, but also like really can be moved from this place that's more intuitive. I really, really love that distinction. Yeah, thank you for that. And I mean, what a much more powerful way to engage in to engage in the process of building this world that we want for ourselves and our fellow humans, and for, you know, all beings, really. What a much more powerful place to engage that process from. And then, you know, all the way back to what Sarah was saying, it's such a less draining place to be, you know, in relationship and in supporting that dynamic space. It's so vitally important, this self-care practice. And what you know, we always have to check in with ourselves about is that it doesn't just become about me, you know, me and my work and my thing and my stuff and my whatever. And if I don't have all my chakras aligned, and if I don't have all my beads in the right place, and if I don't have all my right sense in all my things and I can't possibly engage in the world. It's like, no, it's not that. You know what I mean? It's this constant reciprocal process of tending well here so that we can engage. But let's be clear that it's because I don't want it to start to look like, oh, I need 6 million other things so that I can then engage in the world. Like, that's not the thing. If your self-care practices are removing you from being able to engage in the world in a more clear and effective way more of the time, something's not working. It's becoming more of a narcissistic endeavor. Does that resonate with you guys? Does that make sense? Yeah, so let's be just like mindful about that, because I mean, sometimes, you know, like I'll go on retreat or whatever, and I just did, a girlfriend of mine, I was helping her out with surgery, and she's like, she has this cabin in the mountains, and I went and I did 3 days of silence, and it was so needed. And when I can't, you know, when I come back, to just remember that it also only takes a moment. I don't always need 3 days of silence in order to engage in the world. You know, like that's a very rare, special time for me to be able to do that anymore. But also to know that it only takes a moment to get to this place of responsiveness that Trey is talking about, you know, awareness that Christine talking about, to step out of the river of overwhelm and the river of lack that Sarah was talking about, and into the river of abundance. So it really, you know, we spend a little bit more time developing a relationship with something that's deeper than just our thoughts and the flitting circumstance of our lives. So we could spend some time in meditation and spend some time in practice, so that then we then can have little touchstones throughout our day to just, you know, what I like to call just stop and drop in. You can just stop and drop in. Stop for 3, you know, what I often do, like when I'm moving from one transitional space to another, like when I leave this room with all of you guys, and then I'm going to go back out and be with my daughter, I'll stop, and let's all just do this real quick so you guys have this. So you just interlace your hands, lay your palms flat on your chest. And if that doesn't feel good to you, you can just rest your hands on your heart, but this is the mudra of trust. And all you do, eyes open or eyes closed, is take 3 rich breaths beneath the palms of your hands. And then you can allow your eyes to open if they were closed. And then just like that, you're reconnected to a place of being. You're reconnected to a place of responsiveness, or at least a little bit out of your head for a moment. And it's kind of like, for me on that transition space, that's just a super simple touchstone practice that I use literally probably 10, 15 times throughout the day. And it helps me to re-anchor and to become more responsive. So little things like that. Does anybody else have anything that they want to throw into the mix here as far as self-care, and how and why that's important, and how it allows you to show up for the world or for others in your life? Yeah, Jen. Let me see here. There you go, hon.
Am I unmuted?
Yeah.
This is just bringing me to this realization of how much I want to, when I'm in a depleted place, I have this need to control, like need to control my environment and need to control other people. But from what I'm hearing from everybody, is just this being in this place of responsiveness. I think that's what Trey was speaking to, responsiveness and receptivity. I'm like, the self-care allows me to be in more right relationship. So I don't need everything to be just so, and I don't need everybody to behave just so. Like, I can move and become, I can be more fluid in my, sorry, I'm sitting next to a road, but I can be more fluid in that relationship with myself and with other people. And it feels a lot better than trying to control everybody, including myself, and trying to control the world and hold on with my fists really tight. and my jaw really tight, you know? So thanks for this conversation.
Yeah, control is a big one. And how does that go? How does that go for you with like tea, for example? Right?
You can't control a toddler.
Right? They're great mirrors for like, we actually can't control life. Like, and we're in this place right now where like, whoa, everything is, you know, like it's always been so that we can't control it. But now it's just much more obvious that we can't control it. And the more that we can, you know, be in it and just bringing it right back to what Trey was saying and being responsive moment by moment, like being in the pulse, because when we try to control it, we actually kill it. You know what I mean? When we try to control it, nothing can move, nothing can breathe, you know, and that's the thing, is life needs this dynamic shift. And I hear you though, you know, when I start like really micromanaging what Lily's up to, I'm like, whoa, hang tight, McCraken, like you gotta you gotta take a few of these or something, because that's just me slipping into a place of not enough. Like, I just got to get it all controlled so that I can feel safe, or I can feel like I know what the outcome's going to be, or I can feel like, you know, whatever. But that's just not how life works. I mean, you try it for a second, like take a breath in and then just hold it, you know, and you try to control it. And you're just like, no, that's just not how it works. And it's really interesting. And we can maybe turn the corner on that, Jen, because I want to do a couple of balancing practices is like, we need the full expression of life in order for things to be life-giving. And so we need this state of being, like we were, you know, kind of engaging with at the beginning of practice today. We need that, we need to be able to anchor in something more enduring and more stable that's beyond the fluctuations of everything. We need to be able to really rest deep into a state of pure being, pure awareness that is unaffected by the surface fluctuations of things. I think it was either this session or my last Thursday session where we were talking about the full moon, and how the moon is actually never not full, right? The moon is always whole, right? It's just the surface reflections of the moon are constantly shifting and changing. And so we need to engage in a way where we remember our wholeness, our fullness, just like the full moon, that we need to have this just grounded presence. But then what you know, what if we look at life, like that's only half the equation, right? The being is only half the equation. The becoming is the other half of the equation. The fluctuations of the surface reflections of the moon, the fluctuations of life, the turning of life. So in yoga speak, the being is often called Purusha, just that which is at rest in the city of your experience. There is always that which is at rest in the city of your experience. That which is at rest beneath the flow of your breath. That's Purusha. And then there's Prakriti, which is the movement. That's the constant, that is the city of your experience itself. And life needs both. So, and I think that we've always found ourselves like, you know, like maybe we're on one end of the spectrum where there's like so much Prakriti, so much movement, and then we get to a place that Sarah was talking about where we're just overwhelmed and we're drained. Or we're just resting back in a state of Purusha and we're not engaged in life. We just kind of like, we just dissociate. It's called dissociation. That's what it's called. And you just dissociate. Or some, you know, in terms of like, it can also be called spiritual bypassing, where you're just like, yeah, all this stuff that I can't control, to bring in Jen's point, which is the dynamism of life, I can't control it, so I'm just gonna bypass that. I don't wanna feel that, you know, and I'm just gonna rest back in pure being and fuck that, you know, I don't wanna do that. you know, but what we need is the both. And you know, this is sort of the sutra in the tradition that I study, and it says that Purusha, the state of pure being, without Prakriti, the dynamism of life, is lame, is useless. But Prakriti without Purusha is blind. So Purusha without Prakriti is useless, is lame. Prakriti without Purusha is blind. So we need the both. Does that resonate with you guys? We need to have that balance between the two. We need, I mean, oftentimes we talk about it in terms of balance between, you know, sort of the solar energy and the lunar energy, or the masculine energy and the feminine energy. There's just lots and lots of language around finding balance so that we can engage the moment with clear, integrated presence. That's really what we're up to. And so then our actions and inactions and all of that become sustainable. We don't, you know, start to ride the tides of go, 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 and then exhaustion, anxiety, depression, that, you know, that sort of thing. So the more that we can continue to be receptive to the moment and, like Trey was saying, responsive to what's happening, and then also anchored to this place of deep, abiding wholeness, this is a powerful place to be in your life, to be and to express and to weave your thread into the greater tapestry of all life and all living. So that, you know, that's really what we're up to. So what I want to do is just do a little bit of movement. So that little meditation practice we did at the beginning is really amazing at balancing what we've been talking about, Purusha and Prakriti, the hemispheres of the brain, and just allowing yourself to drop in to a place of the breath, which is more Prakriti, it's moving, it's constantly moving. And then we have the place beyond the breath, which is more Purusha, being. And so we engage in that breath practice to balance the hemispheres of the brain, and then we just rested back in being. But now I want to give you guys just like a simple little movement practice that you can do. And then you also have this one that can help you, like when you're in the middle of like going throughout the day, you just take a moment to drop back into pure being, right? And then now here's just a little tiny movement practice. And you don't need anything special to do this movement practice. We're just going to do it seated. And so let's see here. I'm going to record it on here as well. So this little movement practice will help to unwind tension that you might have in your neck, in your shoulders, in your jaw, in your upper back, that kind of keeps the space between the heart and the head blocked. But it also helps to balance the hemispheres of the brain through some of this cross movement that we're going to be doing, and just balancing out through the energy channels. So just take a moment to sit wherever you are, sit up nice and tall, and allow yourself to rest in the arms of the breath. So just really experience what it is to be breathed. What it is for life to enter and then empty you. And as you inhale, sense the breath come in through the nostrils, down through the back of the throat, down the spine, all the way down to the root of the spine. And then as you exhale, up and out. So you just trace the breath. As you inhale, sense the breath come in through the nostrils, down the throat, in through the chest, and then maybe even down into the belly, all the way down to the root. And as you exhale, allow the breath to move up and out. And once again, allow the breath to become balanced as you trace the breath in and down and up and out, so that the length and strength of the inhales match the length and strength of the exhale. Now keep the breath balanced and continue to trace it in and down and up and out. And on your next inhale, just float your arms out to the side. And as you exhale, cross the right arm underneath the left arm. You can just wrap yourself into a hug for a moment, just crossing the arms. And maybe you stay put right there, or maybe you take the backs of the hands towards each other, or maybe even press the palms together. And as you inhale and the breath comes in and down, allow the elbows to move up a little bit, maybe even the gaze up. And then as you exhale and the breath moves up and out, kind of round your spine and guide the elbows down towards the shins. So as you inhale, rise up, maybe even arch back a little bit. And as you exhale, curl in. And just continue to ride the tides of your own breath. Efforting less, just allowing the breath to move you. Allowing the breath to remain even and smooth. Just do one more of these. And then come through to a neutral place. And just push the hands over to the left and drop your right ear towards your right shoulder. If you have yourself in like a little hug, you can just drop your right ear towards your right shoulder and guide your elbows a little bit towards the left. You can play with the chin position a little bit to find a little sweet spot, maybe along the backs of the shoulders or through the neck. And if you're not really feeling a big tug here, you don't have to go searching for trouble. You don't have to go searching for resistance. Inhale, come back through to the center, and then exhale, switch. So you take the hands to the right and drop the left ear towards the left shoulder. And again, you can play with the chin position. Find a little sweet spot for yourself. Allow the breath to be even and smooth. And come all the way back through to the center. On your next inhale, float the arms out to the side, and as you exhale, lower the hands back down, touch the earth. As you inhale, sense the breath come in and down, and at the top of the inhale for a moment, allow yourself to pause beyond the breath. And as you exhale, sense the breath move up and out, and at the bottom of the exhale, allow yourself to rest beyond the breath in that breathless place. Now on your next inhale, float the arms out to the side. And as you exhale, this time hook the left arm underneath the right arm, wrap yourself into a little hug. Elbows up and elbows out, and perhaps you stay put right here. That would be fine. Maybe you start to take the backs of the hands towards each other and pause. Or maybe even push the hands together. As you inhale, sense the breath come in and down for a moment, pause. And as you exhale, sense the breath move up and out, and for a brief moment, suspend beyond the breath. Then on your next inhale, allow the breath to catch the elbows, take them up. And as you exhale, round in. And you just keep going. Feeling into your own breath's rhythm, your own life's rhythm. And for just a brief moment, at the top of the inhale and at the bottom of the exhale, allow the breath and the movement to stand still and just for a moment, linger in pure being, right here in the middle of things. And one more. Draw it back through to the middle. Push your hands over to the left and drop your right ear towards your right shoulder. You're just wrapped in a hug. Just guide the elbows to the left. And again, play with the chin position. Relax the jaw. Feel into the dynamism of the breath and linger in the spaces between breaths. When you inhale, come back through to the center, and as you exhale, push the hands or the elbows to the right and drop the left ear down towards the left shoulder. And every inhale, come all the way back through to the center. Unravel your arms, inhale, and exhale, lower the hands back down to the earth. As you inhale, sense the breath come in and down. And as you exhale, sense the breath move up and out. And as you pause here, relax your hands in your lap. Perhaps allow your eyes to close or gaze down your cheeks. A moment beyond the doing and the becoming to just be. And we'll take that alternate nostril practice that we did at the beginning of the session today, but we'll do it mentally. So as you inhale, try this. Breathe in, like mentally breathe in through the left nostril and sense the breath come in and down the left side of your spine at the top of the inhale, pause. And then as you exhale, sense the breath move up the right side of your spine and out the right nostril. So as you inhale, breathe in through the right nostril, down the right side of the spine, pause. And as you exhale, up the left side of the spine, out the left nostril. So again, as you inhale through the left, down the left side, bring awareness to the base. As you exhale, awareness up the right side of the spine and out through the right nostril. Inhale through the right, down the right side of the spine, pause. Up the left and out through the left nostril. So you just keep going in this fashion, mental alternate nostril breathing. Just fanning your awareness up and down either side of the spine. And at the top of the inhale, you pause with your awareness at the base. And at the bottom of the exhale, you pause. Only lingering in the pauses as long as you can remain at ease and relaxed. And just one more. So the next time your awareness kind of travels out through the left nostril, just relax the technique and rest in pure being, just here. Just now. Experiencing for the briefest of moments what it is to exist before you even have a thought about it. Receptive to the moment as it is, and yourself as you are. Allow your eyes to open softly. Thank you all so very much for being here today. It was really, really great to spend this time with you. Please take care of yourselves so that we can better take care of each other. If you want, I've got practice tomorrow morning from 7 to 8 Pacific time. So if you can make it, I'd love to see you there. Another little Zoom thing. This whole Zoom world is becoming crazy. And and I was also going to tell you that we are, and I don't know, I'm not sure if it's going to happen next week or a couple of weeks from now, but we're working with a gal who I really respect her work. Her name is Maisha T. Hill, and she has an organization called Check Your Privilege. And so we're going to be bringing her on to speak with our community here about anti-racism work. And so be on the lookout for that date. It's just going to be on our Wednesday call, and we are going to follow her leadership. And we're working on a couple of other guest speakers too coming up. So just keep your eyes peeled, and we'll let you know what date that's going to land on. Okay. All right. Have a beautiful week, and we'll see you soon. Thank you guys so much for being here. I love you all. Mwah. Bye.